thank you to those that are here with us. We appreciate that very much. And yes, I love Donna wrote yay faces. So I love seeing faces as well. And we're really excited about this amazing time together with you guys.
So a couple of quick housekeeping things. One, I'm Michael Harper, one of the co-authors, and Sean Nason, the main author. We have Robin Glasgow with us in spirit if she doesn't jump in at some point soon. She had a dentist appointment that made her really drowsy, and so she wasn't sure that she was going to be a functioning human by this time today. So we may or may not see her pop in. If not, we will speak. I guess I shouldn't say speak about her, but we will include her spirit in the conversation for sure. As you're just joining us, we were saying that people are welcome to keep their cameras on so we can have a face-to-face conversation. We are recording, and we'll be able to put this out on our website when we're finished with the recording so that other folks can participate with this. So if you don't want to be a part of the recording, we totally understand if you would prefer to have your camera off, just so you know that. The other thing is that we do hope that you all just fill up the chat area with tons of comments and interactions. It's a great way for a group this size to be able to interact and to connect with each other as well. So please jump into that chat and start having conversations while we're having this face-to-face conversation as well. So today we have a couple of big questions to tackle today. We're going to give you an overview of the book and some background in the book that'll hopefully help you have a deeper connection with it. And then we are going to build some time in at the end for some question and answer time. So looking forward to any questions that you put into the chat, as well as any questions you want to ask us in person towards the end. So great to see everybody. Let's jump in because we do have a hard stop in 40 minutes now.
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
I don't shoot. Our other co-author saying she's been waiting to be let in. So
I don't see her, but I'll reach out to her separately.
Okay.
She may have the wrong link.
That's a dragon to kiss. That's a dragon to kiss. Right?
I'll take care of her.
Right.
Awesome.
There could be plenty of things that can go wrong, right?
Yes.
So while she's joining us, the starting place for us today, and I'm just going to pose this to Sean and then Robin when she joins us, is, one of the first mindset we jump into is falling in love with the problem, and not just the problem, but the right problem. So the Kiss Your Dragons model, of course, has, if you're familiar with the book, has the set of mindsets and heartsets. And the first one on the list is fall in love with the problem. And my question for us, Sean, is what problem were we trying to solve when we started writing this book? Why does the world need this book? And what problem were we trying to tackle in writing?
Well, I actually say probably the person that helped inspire this book is actually here as well, Donna Porter, who is been a huge influencer in our life the last 2 years. And something she said to, I believe it was to Michael and I, sometime last year, she said, Sean, a lot of organizations do really good about talking about the head and the hands, but not really about getting to the heart. And she says, you guys do that really brilliantly. And Donna has been a part of our team since last year. And she said, there needs to be more heart discussions that need to take place in the world within organizations, and that leaders need to learn to lead more from the heart. And how do you make the connection between the three? So that was the big reason. As we were talking, we had these mindsets that we knew we wanted to write about, and that all of a sudden these heart sets started to come about, and how did we bring that to life? So it's actually really great to have Donna sitting here with us as part of this, because I do give a ton of credit to you, Donna, for helping us come to this spot and recognizing that within our own organization.
Thank you for living into it. Thank you.
And I think it's a big question for us to look at, but it's been a fun one to think about. That to me, the problem we were falling in love with was that, or is that, people are hungry for something more. What we when we go to conferences, when we could actually physically go to conferences, and then since then working in the virtual world at conferences and connecting with people, what we hear the most is frustration about wanting to do big stuff and not being able to do it. And in fact, one of the things that we hear all the time when we go to conferences, there's actually a story in the book, is that when people come to us in conferences, they often ask, can I come work for you? Like, do you have a job for me? I really want to come work. And that's everything from a passing conversation in the booth to pulling Sean over for a one-to-one over coffee somewhere, that they're serious and they really want to come work with us. And what we realize is that it's not so much that they want to get a paycheck from us, from Mophie, to work with us. What's really happening is that people want something more. And so part of our mission shifted to, how do we empower and inspire people in their current job to do bigger and better things? How can we inspire them and equip them with the tools and the resources they need to be able to shake stuff up and blow shit up inside of their own situation, their own organization? And so I do hope that these mindsets and heart sets get to that. And it looks like we got Robin jumping in as well. Are you speaking with us, Robin? Or are you watching from a distance?
I'm speaking. I have a new laptop, so I'm trying to update some stuff. I will get on camera here in a second. I just need to, wipe a little.
Absolutely. Can you respond to the question that we started with, which is, we try to fall in love with the right problem. That's one of our top mindsets in this model. What problem were we trying to solve by writing this book? Trying to fall in love with the right problem.
I have two answers to that. Answer number one is Sean's boredom.
Which is true.
You're right. And then answer number two is, people waste a lot of time, money, energy, effort, satisfaction from consumers on selling their solution, selling their shit, and wonder, well, I wonder why no one's buying it. Or, well, this didn't perform as I wanted to, or spinning altogether. And so the problem is around, we need to refocus the energy and where most people are putting energy and assets in technology and let's hire new product developers. Doesn't mean you don't need those things, but it all starts with the mindset and now this new heart set. So that's the problem we were falling in love with.
I guess my follow-up with that is, what for you both, Sean and Robin, what is your biggest hope for people as they engage with the stories and the conversation that we have in the book? What is your greatest hope for people as they engage all of that?
I can go. What I love about it is, and we've always known this, but I think when we started talking about the book, what became very, very clear is that if you put Robin, Sean, and Michael on a continuum, you have Sean on the farthest end of left you could get, and don't interpret that as anything political. you have Michael on the farthest right, again, not political, because I might flip it. I laugh. And I skew more towards a Sean than I do towards a Michael. But the beauty of it is that you're going to have people that can identify the audience in which, you know, we might be similar to, will identify with us, either our journey, our path to embracing some of these mindsets and heart sets and the war wounds that we got along the way. And so for me, it's one of these things where I've said a few times, man, I wish we would have wrote this book at the beginning of the journey. And I'm like, well, might not have had a book to tell, or story to tell. But there's also nuggets for people who are beating their head against the wall. Been there, done that, seen it, got the t-shirt, got burnt by the fire. And so this is definitely, you know, to let you know you are not alone. And there should be something in there that you can identify with.
What about you, Sean? What's your hope?
My hope is that this becomes a book that actually gets put into action in people's lives. You know, and we all have a lot of books that we read. If many people, you wouldn't be sitting on this call if you weren't a learner and didn't want to learn. But there's so many books I've read, and then it goes on a shelf because there wasn't easy nuggets for me to take away. And I think we purposely wrote this book. We said we didn't want it to be a big book, like hundreds of pages. We wanted it to be a conversation. We wanted it to be easy nuggets. And I think that's what we did. And what we've heard from people is the conversational piece is what people really love about it. And that's my hope is, this is actually the book that people like carry when the world of business gets to travel again. Like they keep it in their briefcase or they keep it close to their desk. Even me, you guys see, those that know me, I have Post-its in the book. Like even my favorite quotes that, you know, Robin has said or Michael has said or I've said, I've gone through and highlighted. And so this is now like my, I thought I lost this book the other day and I was like, what did I do with it? Can I use this when I'm doing interviews or stuff like this? Because I want it to become my manual for life. So what about you, Michael?
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I guess my only and to it is that there's so much struggle and pain that we hear about in our work, right? We hear about people who are frustrated. We've worked with people who are about to quit their jobs, and just looking around at the wealth of experience and support on this call, we've all either been there or we've heard stories from people about being frustrated and being ready to quit their jobs. And I just wonder if there's some hope in there of, can people not just read the stories but somehow feel the tension and the camaraderie and the challenge that is between the three of us and so many others on this call of how might we launch into a true swarm, and how might that swarm truly support and challenge people to go out and to do bigger and better things. There's so much of this that if we're being really honest, has been painful for me. This has not been an easy, always fun journey for me. And for those of you that have watched any of it along the way, you can remember what some of that was like for me. And I've been able to see so many other folks struggle in different ways along the journey as well. In the end, we do bigger and better things, and we're better because of it. And I hope that comes through in the book, and I hope that does inspire other people. So lots to dig into there.
Well, and I think you brought up something there, Michael, that like to lay it very transparent to those that don't know us and know the three of us, there is a healthy tension between the three of us. And sometimes it can be a heated tension, sometimes it can be tension. Right? And I love how you put it, Robin. I kind of look at us as the teeter-totter, right? Like there's Michael and Sean, and Robin gets to be the fun one in the middle who slides one direction for some things and slides the other direction for other things. And that's what made this fun, because I don't even think when we set out to write this book, and I remember back of us doing it, and for some of you that don't know the journey, this hasn't been like a 3-year process or a 1-year process. We started this process of writing this book of June of last year and released it 5 months later. So you hear people that write books, they're like, oh, it was a 3-year journey. We did 3 years worth of work in 5 months, and there's a whole team on here that helped make that happen. But right, like we didn't set out to write this book as a conversational book either. It just so happened we realized that was the best way we were going to get the story told, was it to be a conversation. It was supposed to actually be me writing a book, and I'm like, yeah, but we have to have our other conversations in here to really get it. So I think that's good for the whole group to know as well, Michael.
It is, and let's go there in terms of, at the very essence of all this is what we're calling radical relationships. And I think it's easy just to say, oh yeah, radical relationships, great, I got it. And if you're able to admit that you got it that quickly, I'm going to challenge you that you don't get it, that you're not there yet. One of the funniest things is that we had a team member once ask, when John and I were together, they were trying to get some good juicy gossip, and they said, tell us about your biggest fight. You've got to fight a lot. And we just kind of looked at him and we kind of laughed. We've never done that because we've chosen not to. Have we disagreed? Yes. Have we challenged each other? Yes. Have we sat and stewed next to each other in the plane seats on a long flight where we couldn't leave each other? And even though I kept getting up to go to the bathroom just to get away, once they turn that fasten seatbelts light on, you're stuck. And that is part of it. And so from the book, if you've been able to read the book so far, you'll know about radical relationships. If not, this is starting on page 6 of the printed version. And what it says is radical relationships are grounded in love, but that's just the beginning. The radical part is about busting down a wall or two, and then skipping ahead a little bit, that radical relationships are about depth and authenticity, boldness and heart. More importantly, they're about being willing to be in relationships with people and systems that are very different from where you are, and embracing the mess that comes with it. And it's the mess that comes with it that I think is worth spending some time at this point, because in the world that I've learned now, that I've jumped into head first, it's not always clean and easy. It's exciting, it's an adventure, but you have to embrace the messiness that comes with it. So Robin and Sean, I would love your perspective on that radical relationships piece, and to paint a positive light, because that's where we're coming from, but also to own the dirty side, the messy, scrappy side.
I have 100,000 thoughts on this, but one of the deprogrammings I had to go through as I got more gray hair in life and career is around everything having a purpose and intent. Mm-hmm. That, I'm a strategist. That was a strategist / innovator, but I'm a strategist. Strategists aren't used to winging it, but I'm a wing it queen too. But it was a deprogramming I had to do after sitting in boardrooms and C-suites and that sort of thing. You don't produce anything that is not perfection. You just don't do it. And so what do you mean messy? Messy is for your private, your one-on-ones with self and maybe a small comfortable team, but it's not. It's not for prime time. And so it's to me, the mess is amazing of not having the destination. And it is there's a saying that someone uses and I've stolen, which is around, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So let me just give one quick example. I've been dating for a while since I got divorced. And whether it's myself or most women, I'll be very sexist when I say this, it's the first date. And before actually even someone will go on a date, it's like, can I marry him? Or can we have kids? I have a good friend of mine that is a guy was asking her out. We were out having dinner. She's like, oh no, I'd never got with him. Why? I could never see myself with someone like, he just asked you to go have a meal. He didn't ask you to bear his children. I mean, slow down, enjoy the journey, don't worry about the destination, because you never know the people that you encounter, the purpose they might serve in your life. And we're already trying to put them in the bucket. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
Wow.
You definitely had a reaction to that one.
Well, first off, those of you that often Robin and I, and those of you that don't, Robin and I are like brothers and sisters. And so Robin doesn't get to date at her age, which is only 21 is her age. Yeah, I mean, I think you said it, and Michael, you coined this term, and actually, some of you that know me very well now know that I have a new addiction. I gave up my addiction to alcohol many, many years ago, but I'm now addicted to this thing called Clubhouse. And I have some other addicts on here with me. So I see Jonathan on here. And I actually scheduled a room for us next Monday called Who is Your Crazy? And so when I talk about that, Michael tells our team in the messiness, there's only room for one crazy in the company, and Sean owns it. And else gets it. And I actually had no idea until I was actually in a conversation, nothing around this book today, but it's everything around this book, because there's a new theory called neurodiversity that comes out, and many leaders in top companies are neurodiverse, which means they've been diagnosed with either on the spectrum or ADHD or ADD. That's the terminology around it. And I function in a world of messy. So I was in a conversation today, and I see lots of smiles on here because I was on a conversation today, and the two questions that were asked of me is, Sean, what's the process to get this done, and how do you measure success, and what are the metrics going to be?
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
I'm glad you're the only one off of mute, Robin, because there would be a lot of other people very loud right now. That's what messiness means to me. But yet I don't even know it's messy because I just live in it. I live in this crazy world that if you could see behind my desk right now, we have this virtual background on. I don't know many people in the business world, and I realized this the other day, and I'll show you, because this actually comes from a very dear friend who is sitting on this call with us, that the very first book you see behind here is fuck. Right? Like, so I realize that I'm on business calls, and what people are reading is fuck or get shit done. And the call I was on this morning was
next to Mickey Mouse. Just so we're clear, it's next to Mickey Mouse.
Next to Mickey Mouse, right? And what you don't see is the hidden vodka and the whiskey back there. And then I received a gift yesterday from a friend of mine in Slovenia I have my little stick now, my energy stick. That's messiness to me. But I didn't realize it, and I see Zach's on here. I was actually on a church meeting this morning with a bunch of church leaders with my background, and looked, and I went, oh my gosh, it just says fuck right there. So do I try to hide it, or do I just go
with it.
And I just kept going. So that's messiness to me, Michael. I don't know if that answered your question, but messiness is there's only room for one crazy, and I own it.
Well, right. And I mean, I now have a pit in my stomach. It's just, I'm all tight and anxious now, just because we're talking about all that messiness, because I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's well, I won't say, I don't think it's tons of fun. I've come to understand that it's really important, and that is what helps people grow. And that's what helps me grow. And so I think that brings us around to the conversation about actually kissing the dragon, right? So in the dragon kissing metaphor, it's taking whatever is challenging you, whatever is preventing you from being the you that the world needs you to be, and just taking it by the throat, and instead of strangling it, leaning in and making friends with it, and giving it a kiss. And that's not easy. And I will say that every time I've had to take another pass at this book and had to go back through and look at the text of really understanding what it means, every single time I do that, I end up having to rethink my life and my approach and my attitude. And notice I didn't even flinch with the messiness of dogs barking behind me anymore, because I'm used to this. But that's that for me is what it's all about. Is that we've got all these challenging things. We've got all of the hard stuff. We get to choose what to do with it, and it's by leaning in and making the hard choice to do it and embracing the mindsets and the heart sets we're trying to put out into the world, that's where growth happens. That's where change happens. And I'll give you a quick example, is that when we're working with the people that were publishing the book, that were putting it into a printed form, we did a first pass, living our mindsets, and then we went and got a whole bunch of feedback, and a lot of our feedback team is on this call right now, which is beautiful to see. And so then we had to take all of that feedback and put it back into the book. Well, I could have taken a red pen and marked up the manuscript and sent it off to the designer, or I knew as an editor that I could use the InDesign, which is the Adobe platform that the book was laid out in. I didn't know how to use InDesign, and I knew that InDesign was scary, and I was scared to death that I was going to hit a button and the book was going to be destroyed, and then we were going to be behind schedule. And so I hemmed and hawed and put it off longer than I should have. But then I did my free 7-day trial, and I opened up InDesign, and we figured out how to redo the book on our own in InDesign at the last minute to make the book happen more efficiently. And on the one hand, it's like, that's just a story of a guy who figured out how to use a computer program. It's so much more than that. It's everything that I had to overcome, and you have to overcome when you're tackling whatever problem is getting in your way. And so you can sit and make excuses of why you can't go write a book, or you can go write the book. It's up to you. But the more dragons that you lean into, the more dragons that you're able to kiss, the better off your life's going to be. Is kind of my end result of all of that. Robin and Sean, I don't know how that strikes you, but what's your riff on the tension and the kissing the dragon piece?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I had no idea this, honestly, why this meant so much to me till probably 2 days ago. And another very dear friend of mine is on this call, Jonathan George, and he's been challenging me to tell my story. And I'm like, I'm as transparent as anybody. Like, there's people that have known me. My best friend of 30 plus years is sitting on this call. Like, people know everything. I don't hide it. But what I realized is I didn't realize totally where the Kiss the Dragon came from. And it probably happened 15 years ago in my life career that I thought I would be in for the rest of my life in the church world, as a pastor, was ripped out from me. And I had to reinvent who I was as a person. And if I didn't lean in and start kissing dragons at that point, I would have been completely defeated. And you can either run from the dragons or you can lean in and do it. And what I have realized is I started that journey 15 years ago when a whole career, my life, my identity was built in something that came tumbling down. Michael, I know you walked through some of that same journey even recently, right?
The exact same journey 3 years ago. This is not
3
the
years
career
ago.
I thought I would have. Nope.
Right? Like, so I never thought I would be sitting here on a screen, written 2 books now, doing what we do. But that is totally what this means about your dragon. And we didn't, to also be clear, like, we didn't come in going into a Kiss Your Dragon theme. And for those of you that don't know it and you haven't read it, it all started. Well, first off, you could not have, for me, written a book any more out of the norm. This book was written by interviewing me for 6 hours a day, and Michael and I and Robin for 6 hours a day, while I swam in a pool in Florida during the summer. Talk about a great way to write a book, right? Yeah, I got a great tan. But it was literally when we were sitting there, this movie popped into my head called How to Train Your Dragon. So if you've not seen the movie How to Train Your Dragon, there's Toothless and Hiccup in the movie. And ultimately, not to ruin the whole movie, but because this young man leans in to train a dragon, now that we call Kiss Your Dragon, it changed us as society from something. And we're in a place, I look at all the faces on this screen, take a moment and breathe in and look at it. There is a diverse group of people on this screen from all walks of life that we need to change our society today. Like, that needs to happen. And so I realize that that's what that means. And I think that's become my mission, Michael's mission, Robin's mission, on top of everything else, is we want to change society. We don't want to go back to what it was pre-COVID. We took some really hard stands within our company around Black Lives Matters. People said, you need to stay out of this. We said, no, we're going to lean into this. Robin helped lead a ton of that effort with, we took a big stand in June around the LGBTQ community, even at that point, and are very proud of that. And I actually was on a call this morning, and our creative director's on here. So Chelsea, you'll love this conversation, because it was around Kiss Your Dragons, but it was like, most companies won't even dare to go down the path that you guys go down. And they were talking about our logo on the Mophie side that has like 9 different colors. They're like, that's a graphic artist nightmare. But we did it very deliberately, and Chelsea led that work for us and made that, it was a very deliberate stance. And I'm glad she came on. But thank you for coming on camera, Chelsea. I see your face, because I do get emotional about it, because it's a very deliberate stance we have made around kissing your dragon in our life, in our company. And we take a lot of risks that a lot of other companies won't take. But I understand more and more every day now why that happens. So that was a really long-winded answer, Michael, but
it was. But that's where the passion gets into. That's why the phone calls that we went on to create the book were 6 hours and not 30 minutes. There was a lot
of passion.
Robin, any thoughts before we open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, it's just interesting. I'm having kind of a lot of brain spam. And so here's a verbal exercise that I'm going to try and go on shortly and succinctly, which is the kissing your dragon. It is definitely a life metaphor. And please forgive me if I feel like I'm drooling. Mouth surgery.
You're good.
It's definitely a life metaphor. At some point, sometime in our lives, fear has set in, or this reluctance to tackle something that is just overwhelming, or face something that's overwhelming. At some point in time, if you become a parent, if you haven't become a parent, if you've experienced death, if you've worked at a company that's bigger than one person, you've probably have felt at least some degree of that. Some on that scale will be not as high, but can empathize with that feeling. And so, what I love about the whole approach around mindsets and heart sets, and it's interesting because I find myself leaning into one more than the other, depending on what's in front of me right now. And in trying to do a mindset shift that leads to a behavior shift for myself, that when I feel fear, and there's not too many things I'm afraid of. Driving in Boston is one of them. Other than that, not too many things that I'm afraid of. But when things that are just, I know this is going to take a lot of time. I really don't want to do this. It's not my favorite thing to do. What I love about it is that at any moment in time, you gotta just pucker the hell up, put some chapstick on and pucker up. And the growth that happens in that moment, particularly when it's done, it's been a difference maker for me, and just one that I invite people to explore. And one of the other things that I'll say, going back to my comment around, it just really depends on where I am and what I need. Because I was looking at the page 3, the table of contents, and I'm like, oh, that's my favorite. No, that's my favorite. No. And I felt myself again trying to put something in a box, and then realized, no, it's a combination. You can Venn diagram for those who need structure and order. Where they overlap, they definitely are connected, but there are moments when one is a little bit bigger than the other, meaning either you need to kiss it, let's get it over with, let's embrace it, let's make it your BFF, or you're really feeling it and energizing, and people around you are also feeling that as well, and seeing and observing that. So that's all. Mamba out.
And for me, it's, if you give lip service to this, if you half-ass it, it's really not worth your time, if we're being honest, in terms of transparent conversation. This has to be a dive in headfirst and rethink everything, how you're living your life and how your work life is. Everything about how you're living and working is affected by this way of making stuff happen. And that goes back to the navigator concept with Sean, and the helping people through this, the accompaniment piece, that we're all in this together as a swarm to make big things happen. And we only do that by really leaning into those radical relationships, living authentically, and then making stuff happen. We do have a few minutes for some questions, and not to put anybody on the spot, but would love to know if anybody has any questions. Either throw something in the chat, or feel free just to turn your mic on and talk a little bit.
Hey, Michael, I saw where you wrote something in there. Do you want to ask it? And we
Yeah,
can definitely answer that.
I think a big thing, and I had the pleasure to work with all three of you. I think the big thing for me is really leaning into radical relationships, and how do we do them right now? For me, it just seems very overwhelming that this country seems to be set on continuing the divide between everyone. And just the idea of radical relationships seems so damn radical, because in my opinion, it feels like things are more like, let's split us instead of bring us together. How are you leaning into that, and how do you have those tough conversations when realistically a lot of people see things differently on a slew of levels?
Yeah, I'll answer that, and then I know Michael will want to, and Robin. Like, I guess what's hard for me is I don't even realize that radical relationships are hard. Right? Like, it's innately, and Jonathan, that I mentioned earlier, who's on the call here in the beautiful yellow sweatshirt, is, I was raised that way. And Beth, who's on here too, knows this, been friends almost 40 years. I was just raised that way. So I don't understand this concept of radical relationships, but I do love where we put in the book that radical relationships are about depth and authenticity, boldness, and heart. And that's just, if we just learn to live that way, we don't have to agree. Let's be very, very, very clear that Robin Glasgow, Michael Harper, and Sean Nason do not agree 100% on everything. We have some major differences in our lives, but what we do have is respect for each other. I respect Michael for his differences, and I joke with him and I say he's wrong, but I don't, right? But we have, in Robin, an immense amount of respect for each other, but it doesn't mean we always agree on everything. And I think that if we can come back to that, Matt and Adu, in our world, my mother was a politician in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, early 90s. She would be frightened today at our political environment. It would break her heart, is what it would do. It wouldn't make her angry. She would probably cry about it. Because I grew up around all walks in the political world, and you could have disagreements between 9 to 5, but then I would watch my mother go to dinner with people that she just had heated conversations of differences over. And to me, she taught me to kiss dragons that way. You may not always agree, but over food and drinks, we're always going to be friends, and we're always going to be respectful. So I don't know, Michael, Robin, what you want to add to that. I hope I answered that for you, Matt.
For me, it's even a step beyond respect, and it's a step beyond acceptance. And I think that might be where some of the issues in our culture come from, is that it's easy to get lip service to say, I'm going to throw words at you and you're going to throw words at me, and we're just going to agree to disagree, and I'm going to accept those words and I'm going to say them respectfully. And if we do that, I think we failed. I think the key is that you have to start with a place with, I'm not always right, and I'm willing to change. And if you're not willing to start with that, then radical relationships are never going to happen. There are so many moments of, if your aim is to change the other person, if your aim is to disagree, then it's never going to go anywhere. But I think, and we're pretty public about it, Sean and I are actually polar opposites on the political scale, and we won't even tell you who's who. But in that, we are choosing to find ways to learn from each other in that moment, and an opportunity to heal. So if you're coming in with an agenda of I'm right, it'll never work. If you're coming in with an agenda of I have something to learn from you and I'm willing to swallow my pride and my hot-headedness, then there's something else that can happen. It's a great question.
You're on mute, Robin.
Oh, I went to a Proud Boy event on accident. I live in DC. I was walking with a girlfriend. I was like, oh, let's go walk the monuments. And I'm like, where are you at? And we met up. Where are you at? Oh, we're by the Trump flag. No big deal. And so then I kept seeing more and more and more and more. This is 2 weeks before the January 6th event. and more and more and more. And at some point, we were walking, and there was someone speaking, and I was like, oh, I'm curious about what they have to say. Now it was, it was definitely riddled with conspiracy theories and I audibly laughed out loud, and I kept walking and walking and walking. I say that to be that, to mean that I really embody empathy. My family looks like what this call looks like. That's what I grew up, and that's what I know. And so, but I know that's not everybody's journey. I don't enter this life looking to be right. I enter looking to be heard. And the biggest gap that we have in this country right now stems from empathy. We don't have it. We've lost that. We have where you are now getting where there are in-house divide, like literally you share the same address, zip code, maybe same bed, where there's in-house divide and people aren't talking to one another. I'm like, what happened? I mean, I was married to someone who's in the opposite party of me. That's not why we're divorced, but I was married to someone who's in the opposite party of me. I have friends who are in the opposite party of me. And life goes on. And I just think that honestly, we just need to all do a little bit of adulting, and the adulting starts with empathy.
And I think that comes back to the Kiss Your Dragons, because sitting in an echo chamber in whatever social media that you enjoy, that's easy. That's super easy. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the hard work of radical relationships and the messiness that comes with it. And if we don't have the skills to navigate that messiness, we're not going to make it. And that's the bottom line for me. Is it the kissing your dragons? I can't tell you how hard it is for people who are not native to it. Mm-hmm. Even if Sean wants to say that it's natural for him. Even though it's natural, it's not always easy. It's having to choose the tough paths, right?
Yeah, being natural is one thing. Being easy, it is not.
Or fun, right?
Or fun.
Never easy.
Yeah.
Well, I want to honor our time, and so it's probably wise to wrap up. If you do have, first of all, thank you for joining us and being a part of this experience, and for the swarm coming together. I hope that you can even feel, just in this short time together, if you start having these conversations, that you're able to feel a part of a swarm and start to make a movement in a direction. And then second, if you do have questions or want to keep talking afterwards, let us know. You have, if nothing else, you can email info@mofi.co, or you can do michael@mofi.co, robin@mofi.co, or Sean, SHAWN@mofi.co. And feel free to start the conversation with any of that. And we'd love to keep the conversation going. Any parting words for Sean or Robin?
Hey, Michael, I would just love to say that this book has been so powerful just in my life, having the three of your voices speak into each part of this, because it was almost like, you just had such different extreme thoughts. And on Clubhouse, I have been using those terminology over and over and over. So that's very powerful that you guys have started a movement, not only in your book, but in my life as well, and the things that I'm actually saying. So thank you guys so much for that. It's been very powerful.
And if you have read it and liked it, go leave a review on Amazon. That always helps us. I know Beth was like, you got to talk about this. I see it in her face. And if you don't like it, Shonda Rhimes has written a book called The Power of Yes. Go say no. Go write your review there. Shonda Rhimes. But no, because I love Shonda, so don't even do that to Shonda. But yes, go out and write it. We appreciate that. Yeah, and we'll be hosting, I know, 2 more of these, and we'll be doing we'll do a Kiss Your Dragons session as well on Clubhouse. So if you're not on Clubhouse and want to know about that, reach out to us too. There's tons of us that can get you there.
Yeah, the next session's on leadership, and the following one is on Batman. And Christopher will have to be helping us out with that. He's taken the Kiss Your Dragons model to a whole new level. So,
Well, you
Awesome.
can't- Batman needs Robin, so
There you go.
exactly.
Hey.
I'm here all
Awesome.
night. I'm here all night. All right.
Yes.
On that, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.